I think so many people are keyboard activists, right? Everybody's good at sending a tweet about how the world should be and nobody's doing anything about it. And that is just very much human nature, right? Like this is just what happens. So as a culture, I can't speak for, people that live in the Amazon River, and I can't speak for, people that still live in Belarus, but the American culture is soft, and that's a great thing. That means there's been enormous amounts of prosperity, but let's not be naive. I mean, people literally complain when somebody gives them the wrong amount of like extra cream in a Starbucks $6 coffee. We've gotten to a place where we complain, out of all those lovely things you said, as I stood there getting ready to come, the part that, and I'm glad you pick up on this, and not a lot of people have said it before, so thank you. My lack of interest in complaining is so high. And when I watch what people complain about, it breaks my heart because they completely lack perspective. And I genuinely believe my happiness and optimism comes from my perspective. Even in political unrest times like right now, a lot of people are very bent out of shape, but the reality is that it's just never been better to be a human being. That's just the truth, that's just data, that's reality. And it's just a very fun time to be alive. So much going on. The internet is starting to hit maturity. Look what we're doing right now. This right now, right, would have cost millions of dollars in production and distribution to have the amount of people who watch this just 15 years ago. I just think it's very interesting times. And I was saying something to a friend the other day. I was like, could you imagine if you told a parent 15 years ago, hey parent, what you're gonna wanna do in 15 years, instead of buying a kid, your 16-year-old, a car, you're gonna convince your 16-year-old daughter to go into a stranger's car every single day. You're gonna pay for your 16-year-old daughter to go into a stranger's car every single day, and you will think that's normal and actually safer than buying that kid a car. That's literally what we're living in now. High net worth individuals in America are preferring to give their kids unlimited Uber to buying a car because they don't want them drinking and driving, they don't trust their driving, and literally they think it's safer for their 16, 17-year-old to go into a stranger's car than to drive themselves. That's sacrilege 15 years ago. Online dating 20 years ago. The weirdest, nerdiest, you're thinking 300-pound white dude in the basement of a kid's car, now it's just completely standard. I mean, if you add in sliding into people's DM on Instagram, it's like 89% of relationships, right? So, I think that we are, I think we're going through a huge transition because all of us, even thought leaders, are grossly underestimating the internet itself, and we're hitting scale, right? We now all are on at all times, and this is now the beginning. I was joking when I was working out this morning to D-Rock. I'm like, D-Rock, you're gonna get replaced by like a Pokemon ball. Like, I'm gonna throw it up. Like, people in 20 years are literally gonna throw something up and just gonna hover 360 and film everything they're doing. I mean, like, it's just an incredible time. And I think the way people look at the world right now, because it's such an incredible time, is actually the quickest tell to who they are. If you think it sucks or it's bad, you have losing, pessimistic DNA. And if you think it's awesome and phenomenal, you have optimistic, winning DNA. And I believe that to be true. And so that's where we're at. There's certain things that I can't talk about because I know they're not practical. They're intuitive to me, right? And so, yes, for me, it's the balance of, I feel like something's happening, but it always comes from seeing stuff. Like, it's going to the candy store with my little guy and hearing 4 8-year-old girls talk about slime, and then later go to Shake Shack and hear another 2 8-year-old boys talk about slime, and I'm like, slime? And then I search it and this is like a year ago, and I search it, maybe actually it's 18 months ago, and I search it on Instagram to see hashtags, I search it on YouTube, I search Google, I'm like, this is real, there's something happening. Spinners, right? Like, fads are easy for me, and I think what I've been good at in business is trying to decide what's a fad and what's an actual business. So something like Social Cam, I downloaded it and got very serious about it in 2011. I didn't know even the founders of Social Cam. It wasn't that I knew if Social Cam was going to be big. I didn't invest in it, I didn't go after it, but I knew video on the mobile device was going to be big. So when Vine got hot, very quickly, I was an early mover and early advocate of Vine and Vine influencers, right? Which, by the way, Vine influencers are absolutely the precursor to this Snapchat, Instagram thing we're dealing with right now. That's where they came from first. Instagram was photos. Then when Vine was dying a little bit, they all moved over to Instagram. Instagram was smart and made video, 1-minute videos, and that's when you saw the shift, and that became the seed and the foundation of Instagram influencers, which is an enormous billion-dollar industry now. Everyone's like, how are you so early? It's because I put in the work. 2011, social cam, learn how video and mobile works. 2013 comes along, Vine pops. I'm like, that's right. I lived through YouTube 2006-07, being a YouTube celebrity for my wine show, so I knew what it looked like. I saw that the Vine kids were that. I flew to LA and met Brittany Furlan and King Batch. I put in the work, and so it's intuition, but it's also putting in the work.
Yeah, no, that putting in the work is one of the simplest and most, I think, often overlooked kind of thing. And how do you plan to, like, is that one of the things you think people just are either born with the fortitude to do that, or is that something you...
No, that's the one that I think, I mean, there's a lot of research, and again, being an F student in science, like I really don't, it's not that I don't trust anything, it's that I know that I haven't put in the work to really know if I should quote things. You know, so I kind of like just stay in my little lane, but there's a lot of push towards being a workaholic, and hard work is a learned behavior. I see it in my team. There's people that come into I've seen it in the thousands of employees I've had, which is the closer they are to the sun, the harder they work. And I'm like, aha. And so I definitely feel like I learned hard work by watching my parents. And so it's why I talk so much about hustle.
Because it's one of the things that people can actually adjust and turn to.
I watch people give advice completely predicated on natural talent and DNA, and I'm like, look, like I get it, like I can throw a football every day for 9 hours a day, I'm just not physically built to be competitive at the highest levels. So yeah, I do think, you know, if anybody watching right now, if there's anything they take away, it's like, look, like you're gonna only be so pretty, you're only gonna be so smart, like there's things that are gonna be natural, and then there's things that you can actually control. I do believe, and I don't know if I'm right or wrong, I don't, but I do believe that work ethic is a taught behavior. It's something you do have more control over, and yeah, I think, and you know what really sealed the deal for me? Getting healthier. I was 38 years old and it didn't come natural to me. Like it didn't come natural to me at all. I hate the gym. I hate it now. I hate it. I don't like it. I don't want to do it. But I knew it was important. And somewhere around midway through being 38 years old, I got serious. I figured out my system. I made the financial commitment, and I've won, right? And I'll never lose again, because the system was I needed to be accountable to another human being. So it was about Mike and now Jordan, whoever else is my trainer. I'm doing it almost weirdly more to not let them down than to, and so that was this shift. And so I feel like there's a shift that can make people work harder. The big one that I push is you're gonna die. Like if you're like to me, life is broken down into complaining and not. So if you're not complaining, well then I have no advice for you. I'm pumped. Like you did it. Like I have friends who make $42,000 a year, work 9 to 4, kind of, with an hour and a half lunch, and 45 minutes of YouTube, and 10 minutes of bullshitting, and an hour of complete wasted time in a meeting. So they're kind of working like 6, hours a week, right? But they're pumped. And they text me, these are high school friends, and they'll text me like how happy they are to be the coach of their kids' baseball team. And like that's amazing. Like that seems very obvious to me. Like that's right. Like, what's super weird? I'm actually weirdly envious. It sounds cool. Like in theory, right? Grass is always greener, right? Like far less pressure. Like all that time with my kids. Oof, that would be cool. Like there's just like all these things that I can justify. So to me, but I have friends who have $100 million in the bank because of Facebook's IPO, who complain, who are still hungry, who want to do even more, who will complain to me because they know I work a lot about no work-life balance and they don't get to spend enough time with their family. And I'm like, you have $100 million. Like you could stay home. Like you're in control. Like you don't complain about it. You've made that choice. Don't bullshit me. Like you want to spend more time with your family? Spend more time with your family.